Hey listeners, last year was our 15th year of the best in food storytelling. As we head into 2025, we're kicking off a contest in collaboration with the podcast series Feast and Harmony and Sixth Man, where you have the opportunity to win a 4-night cruise for 2 on Chefs Making Waves, a food, wine, and spirits festival at sea. When you donate to HRN, you'll be entered for the chance to win a porthole cabin for 2 on Chefs Making Waves, sailing May 5th through 9th, 2025, from Miami to Cozumel, Mexico on Norwegian Gem. You'll also support another year of great food storytelling with a portion of your donation going toward disaster relief for the food and beverage communities within Western North Carolina and Southern California. This cruise is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for culinary adventurers, featuring top celebrity chefs including Jonathan Waxman, Antonio Lafaso, Robert Irvine, and many, many more. There's a myriad of experiences such as restaurant takeovers, live food and mixology demos, themed parties, and more. To enter your chance to win, please visit heritageradionetwork.org/cruise. Terms and conditions apply. You must be 21 or over to enter. That's heritageradionetwork.org/cruise.
This episode is brought to you by Wisconsin Cheese. We've been making cheese in Wisconsin since before we were even a state, which may be one reason why we win so many awards for it. It's what happens when a whole state dreams in cheese. Find your next favorite cheese at wisconsincheese.com.
You're listening to Heritage Radio Network.
Welcome to the Grape Nation, your weekly wine journey. Our guest is Alessandro Masnaghetti. We'll talk to Alessandro about wine, maps, and more. I'm your host, Sam Benrubi. Stay with us for the Grape Nation on the Heritage Radio Network. We bring wine to the people. Born in Milan and not from a wine or mapping family, Alessandro Masnaghetti, the Map Man, is the preeminent wine and mapping expert in the world. As a budding Epicurean, he found wine, began tasting and writing about it, started to map wine regions, and the rest, they say, is history. Alessandro's company, Enogia, publishes detailed books and maps on wine regions around the world that are visually stunning, truly accurate, and gives context to that place. Welcome to the Grape Nation, Alessandro.
Oh, thank you so much for the invitation.
We are talking to Alessandro remotely on our Zencaster app. I know I asked you earlier, but Alessandro, tell everybody where you are right now.
Oh, I am in my house in Faenza, not far from Bologna. So you're to the north of Italy. It's raining. It's a foggy day, but anyway, it's winter. It's good to have some rain because in the last vintages we had a lot of drought and we need water.
And here in New York, we're having a ton of snow, so that leads to water too. All right, so I want my listeners to understand where you came from a little better, which will set up, what you're doing now. So can you give us a little background on your journey in life and wine that brought you to the profession of a skilled map maker and your company? It's an interesting road. I don't want to spend the whole show talking about it, but, quickly move me through how you got to where you are today.
So do you want me to start from the real beginning?
No, not when you came out of your mother. What I want to start,
just I don't. Minutes later,
I don't even want to know about your nuclear engineer professors. Okay. But let's start from there. Interestingly enough, you attended university and studied nuclear engineering. Take me from there. Let's say.
Yes, but my nuclear engineer studies are not so important because they have no influence at all on my mapping work, on my testing period. And so it's only probably they set up my mind from the technical side. Your mind is, if you are an engineer, you have a completely different mind from a man who studied literature or history or philosophy or
Right.
something like that. So probably uh, the only influence of my nuclear studies are on that side.
Right.
That's
But
a
wait, let go backwards a second for me. It's was clear to me, and just confirm your upbringing was really not around, wine. Your family was not a wine family as far as
no,
drinking at the
no, not
table.
at
They
all.
weren't involved in the business, so that had no bearing on where you wound up. So you get out of university, and what happens?
So what happened? Uh, there was a referendum against the nuclear power plants. So you,
That
you
wasn't good for career hopes.
in a few minutes you moved from having a job and not
Right.
having a job. But fortunately, at that time, I was still passionate with food and wine. So I have to say, I've been a lucky guy all along my life. So when the nuclear engineer, when I do, didn't have the opportunity to work as a nuclear engineer, I had the opportunity to work with Luigi Veronelli, that was the most famous wine journalist in Italy, the man who built the profession of wine critic and food critic in Italy. So it was so great. And I have to say, those years were really, really important for me, to me, and for my future in wine business and in wine mapping. Uh,
Wait,
Trust me.
Alessandro, one thing I couldn't kind of pick up on is where and how you met Luigi. I realized when you met him how
Where,
important that
where,
relationship
so
became.
where I met Luigi, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh,
How'd that come about?
it was quite simple. It was quite simple because I don't know now, but at that time, 40 years ago, uh, in the restaurant guys, there was a small paper where you could write your own impression about restaurant that you visit. And I've sent some of those paper to Luigi when I was serving my military service, and he was really interested in my opinion, and so he invited me in his house in Bergamo, and that was the starting point.
Were you surprised about the response and the interest?
Yes,
I would think so.
it's more than surprise. It's
Yeah.
like to write to Santa Claus and
Right.
person and receive the answer from the real Santa Claus.
Right.
That's
Um,
more or less the same.
so what did he task you to do at the beginning?
Was tasting wine and
Okay.
tasting wine, and I can tell you honestly, that was really, really important for my future in map making, because map making is not only to draw a map with a software like Adobe software or
Right.
is you need to know your view must be 30-60 degrees around you, so you need to know how to taste wine. You need to know something about viticulture, you need to know something about geology, about enology. So that's why I think that without those 15 or 20 years of tasting wine around Italy and the world, my mapping was would not be at the same level of beauty, and because it's really it's important, because it's the only way, because my maps are not only maps, because almost everybody can make a good map today with the software that we have, and probably even better than mine. But what is important in my maps is the text, is the explanation that you have on,
Right.
on the
I
back
want to get into that with you a little. But
text.
tell me one thing. You were a budding, or you were an Epicurean. I think you wanted to be a chef. By the time you got to Luigi, were you much of a wine drinker, or did you have interest in wine, or did that kind of blossom,
Uh, two.
when you got to Luigi?
So at that time, I was a wine and food lover, and at the first step, at the first level,
Okay.
really, really. And this is even more stunning, because he said to a young guy, I was 25 years old or 27, I do not remember exactly, and to write for him without any experience. Yes, I tasted wine from time to time. My real passion was food and not wine, because basically because my father uh, drinks only very very cheap and bad wines.
Right.
For me, the wine was something disgusting, because it was a red sparkling wine, sometimes dry, sometimes sweet,
Was
and
that Lambrusco or other stuff?
no, no, it was uh, because we come. My family, part of my family, my father's family comes from the Alto Piemonte area, and so we are familiar with those grapes, Bonarda, Nebbiolo, Vespolina, and I think that that wine was a blend of this grape variety. And I'm not sure, but probably there are some American varieties as well, and as Clinton and something like that.
Right. Riuniti.
It's
Um,
very foxy wine.
yeah. So you started drinking wine with Luigi. You started writing
No,
more.
a little bit earlier. I was still drinking wine before Luigi, but
Okay.
my knowledge was really basic
You
knowledge.
were exposed to more wines with Luigi, correct?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
it was the game changer. Starting with Luigi means tasting. Before Luigi, I was tasting probably 10 wines a month, and moving to Luigi means to taste 1,000 wine a month. So
Wow.
this,
What a difference. That's
yeah,
unbelievable.
this
Now,
is
just curiosity, just because of who Luigi was, where he was and all that, was the majority of those wines Italian or they were from all over the world?
no, basically we're Italian. We're
Yeah.
Italian. I only tasted for my passion, and also due to my future wife at that time.
So
I
Luigi had a play in you
tasted for
meeting
both.
your wife, or a coincidence, right?
Sorry.
Luigi had some hand in you meeting your wife. You knowing Luigi brought you and your wife together.
Yes, that not directly,
Right.
because when we met, me and my wife at Luigi house, we still know each other, but he always tell the story that me and my wife we met for the first time at his house, and and for us was nice to
Right.
follow the story. But anyway, we I met my wife because both we were passionate with wines. My wife was a wine producer, and both we were passionate of Luigi Veronelli work.
Right.
And so this is why Luigi is so important for me and my wife.
Right. Tell me, while you were writing with Luigi, you even did some of your own things. Didn't you publish um, your own like wine magazine or journal or book? Didn't you do something there? And didn't you introduce map making at that point while you were writing with Luigi and doing your own thing?
So I started with Luigi basically as a wine taster. We were two person, me and Daniel Thomasis at that time,
Wow.
making the wine guide for him. And then it was after 4 years, 3-4 years, that I proposed to Luigi to make a map of Barbaresco, and this was my first map. But to be honest, it was yes, it's my first map because the idea of map making was born in that period, 93, 94.
Right.
But I didn't make the map physically like today, because today I draw the map from the beginning, I write the text, I go on the field, I do everything. At that time, was my idea. I wrote the text, but the graphic of the map it was not mine.
Ah, which is a big change to now.
Yeah, because I wasn't, it was only 30 years ago, but it was a different era. At that time, the software that you had, it was only for some only
Right.
for a few people. It was difficult to find an Apple computer.
Isn't that crazy? I wanted to ask you, while you're on that topic, I want you to expand more. You've been at this for quite a while, which is what you just said. Give me some of your observations in wine and in mapping during your tenure that has changed. So the first thing you stated is literally the computer equipment, that you would work on from now and then has changed. Tell me other things, that have happened during the years, observations or changes, positive or negative.
But to be honest, there are no specific changes. So something abrupt changes. I think that is basically a matter of evolution. So your mind to be every time, every day on the field, to be in touch with the producer, helps you to create your own vision of the world of wine. So I prefer to say that is an evolution. So the way, for example, I give you an example. When I started map making, the first approach was the exposure, was the aspect of the hillside. So
Right.
everything was based in my map making and in my description of the different crews was basically based on exposure and aspects. So south, southwest, southeast, east, west. So and this is I have learned along the years that things are much more complex. So,
But why do you realize that? Is that being on the ground? Is that having other tools available to you?
so it was many factors. For sure, to be on the field is really important. You cannot make good maps, good textbooks without being on the field.
Right.
Then it's important to meet the person who makes wine or who makes viticulture. And this is another very important point that today almost nobody cares about this point.
Right.
Because people go to visit the producer, and basically they go to visit only the most important on the field.
The
And
most important wineries or properties, you're saying?
that's it, exactly.
And to you, you need to, stature doesn't matter. You need to see everything.
Yes, and this is since the beginning. I said, if I make a map of a region, I have to visit everybody. For me, the top producer and the unknown producer are on the same level. For me, the information coming from the unknown and the best known producer are exactly of the same value.
Is that because you don't feel it would be complete unless you knew and spoke with everyone?
Sorry, could you repeat? I didn't get it.
Do you do that, see everyone, because you feel that it wouldn't be complete, or you wouldn't cover everything unless you saw everyone, right?
Sure, because we always forget that the work of a journalist is not to listen and repeat what other people say. The work of a journalist is to collect information, compare the information, and try to give his own vision of that. And this is something that most of the people today forget. They go to a winery, the producers say A, B, C, D, and they repeat in their article A, B, C, D because this producer said exactly that. This is not, in my opinion, the right approach as a wine journalist or as a journalist in general. You have to collect as much as information as you can, then go at home and try to find the way to match all these tiny tiles together.
Is that why when you go visit a vineyard, which is a very important part of the overall map making, you won't go into the vineyards with the producer because you don't want to hear any of what you just said, right?
Who tell you that?
Well, I kind of picked up that that's how you operate, and I think that's a much more pure approach.
Yes.
Is that true?
Yes, I prefer to go in the vineyards alone, and because sometimes, but for two reasons. One is a practical reason, and so if you go on the field with the producer, you stay on the field 3 hours, 4 hours. While if you go alone on the field and you go in the same spot, in the same place, you stay there 15 minutes, not more. And so it's a way to optimize your time.
You said something that was interesting. You said when you go in as a journalist, I'm just curious how you think of yourself. Are you a journalist? Are you a map maker? Or is the obvious answer you're both? Or does one of the two have a stronger play into what you do?
I'm a strange creature.
Okay.
Probably with 2 heads, 4 hands. I don't know, something mythological. But I consider myself, first of all, a journalist.
Okay.
Probably a professional journalist would not agree with this opinion.
Who cares?
But I would try. I want to try to be a better journalist every day. Then I am. Then I am a wine taster, a wine lover, because you cannot make good maps and good books if you do not love wine. Of course, this is obvious. And then at the end, I hope to be a good map maker and a person that try to make things simple and try to explain to the people very complex concepts trying to explain in an easy way that everybody can understand.
I think you have succeeded at that. I want to talk to you about the maps and your books. And I think you eloquently set it up for me because the maps are incredible. The detail, how many different ones you do. But really, it's not just about the map on the paper. It's everything that goes into it, and those are the things that I want to talk to you about. But first, I just want to get some of the numbers or stuff out of the way. You make maps, you write books. Currently, how many maps have you produced at this point?
You want me to be honest?
Well, so if you won't give me a number, it's dozens and dozens of different okay? And you've published a handful of books, right?
Yeah, because I do not remember.
Right.
Every time people are surprised by this answer, but I don't know. What is important to me is always every time to the next map I'm doing must be the best one.
That what? That's the way you're supposed to feel about that. But people are sitting here, they're going, maps. This guy's making maps, he's tasting wine and all that. Explain the forms the maps come in. If somebody says this is intriguing to me, what forms do they come in? We're talking paper, app. Tell me a little about that book.
So you mean how I create a map?
Not how you create. I want to ask you that in a bit, the process of making it. But if I want to go and get a map, what is it? Is it a folded piece of paper? Are they in a book? Can I get them on an app? Tell me, what forms the maps come in.
Oh, it's difficult to give you an answer because I do not understand perfectly the question because there is not a form for me. Basically, the map for me must be a map to be printed on paper.
Okay.
So all the other things are additional. So if I can put in a digital form, it's okay for me, but it's not the first idea generally. For me, a map must be printed and it could be surprising, must be folded.
Okay.
Because these maps are made and conceived to be with you in your car and stop along the way like a road map. And this is in every time when I started my map making work, this was the first starting idea. This map must be in your car, and if you want to stop along the road and look to an hill, to a vineyard, you have to open your map and see this vineyard on the map.
So even though in the United States, the old gas station maps, which are what you're describing, fold up maps, you'd open them, it would be the size of the windshield. Those have sort of gone away. But what you're saying is that for you is, I wouldn't say the only, but the best form. You need a big folded map to put in front of you so you can visualize everything, correct?
Yes. You know, I am 63 years old, so I started to be a little bit old.
Not that old.
I belong to another century, and
yes.
So paper for me is important. That said, at the beginning, to be honest, I explored also the digital world, and as an engineer, I think that the digital world has a lot of potential, but at the same time, I realized that the map customer, the map customers, are still strongly connected with paper.
Right.
Probably because most of them are also from the other century. I don't know. But who has passion for maps has passion for printed maps.
I,
Maps
I,
on the phone, on a tablet, are something more, okay, that you can use, but
right. Accessible.
they prefer, if they have an option and the same map is available on paper and this and on digital, the first choice most of the time is paper.
Yes,
This is, this is my
I think for what you do in this format, it really is the best way to view it. But a lot of people have their own habits. Your first maps and even books were Barbaresco and Barolo. Why those? Was it proximity because you lived close? Were those wines favorites of
oh,
yours?
yes, basically yes, because I was born in Milano and I lived in Milano until 92. And I moved to Monza, that is close to Milano, and I lived in Monza for 20 years. So it was very, very easy for me to take the car, leaving in early in the morning to go to the vineyards and be back at home in the evening. So
Right.
uh, this is a point. The second one is that also at that time, Barolo and Barbaresco were Barolo and Barbaresco, so were reference appellation. And I started with Barbaresco, then I moved to Barolo. This is due to the relation with Daniel Thomas is that I told you before, because
Right.
we were working together, but he was older than me and came to Luigi Bernelli publishing house 1 or 2 years before. So he was writing about Barolo and Barbaresco, and when I arrived, Luigi decided to split, and was normal that Daniel was
What happened?
charged to review the Barolo, and me, the young guy, to work on a smaller appellation like Barbaresco. But
Right.
this was I repeat, I was a lucky guy, because probably this was the best way to start my approach to the Langhe, from a simple appellation, more easy to understand appellation like Barbaresco, and at the same time with more challenging people. Because
Right.
the people living in Barbaresco at that time were very, very, very closed. So I had to learn very, very quickly the way to approach the people there and try to speak the same language. And
Wait, Allison, did you say they were close to each other, or closed where they
close,
wouldn't open up to you?
close mind, close
Okay,
as
so
much.
you had to crack them to
Yeah,
get, yeah,
it was not easy to be accepted
right,
in that community, because you were a stranger.
right,
And you tried to do your best, but anyway, you were a stranger. And for people living in Barbaresco, even those living in Alba probably were stranger at that, that time.
right.
And so it was a good way to practice with the local people. And then that's why when I moved to Barolo, it was so easier, because
Right. Well, you kind of had a sense of what to do. But as you move forward and did other maps, when you look back at Barolo and Barbaresco, um, was the detail and everything going on there as complex as, any of the maps you did later on? I mean, Barbaresco doesn't seem like such a simple place to map.
yes, Barbaresco, and so it depends what you mean, because from a technical, from a graphic point of view, Barolo and Barbaresco are easy to map. In
Okay.
particular today, because we were talking about what changed along the years, the computer and so on. The great change in the last 10, 15 years is the quality of the images. So
Right.
the satellite images, you cannot imagine the quality of the images at the beginning of the 2000s. So in 2003, 2004, the quality was very, 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 very poor.
I
And,
can imagine. Yeah.
and that's why, but it was a good way to practice as well. Because
But when you go the other way, wasn't there, like you said, Barbaresco was closed. There was more drama on the ground. I mean, there were, charting it got easier with satellites. It was harder early on. But in Barolo and in Barbaresco, there's just a lot of regions and hillside. You talked about hillsides and, steepness and all that. Isn't that a pretty complex region?
uh, it's not the most complex region.
No?
No, no.
Okay.
Probably it's a matter of also of culture, because when you are in tune with the local people, everything is much easier. And but uh, for example, Tuscany or Chianti Classico or Valpolicella are
Right.
more difficult to map because it's more difficult to get the lay of the land. Because when you are on the field in Barbaresco and Barolo, if you have if you are able to observe everything and you observe the landscape, uh, everything is clear. And the landscape is explaining to you almost everything.
Right.
While when you move to Chianti Classico or Valpolicella, that are larger, it's always difficult to get a complete view, a complete understanding of the area, because
Why is that?
and so that's why for me Barolo and Barbaresco are much easier to map and to get
Right.
the yes.
When you make maps, how do you determine what regions you will map? Is it something you determine? Do people come to you, whether it's the consortiums or organizations, and say we're
Basically, maybe today is different because has become a profession, a true profession, focused on mapping and all, and only that. But in the before, many 5 6 years before, the decision was when I was sleeping.
right?
So I wake up in the morning and I say, "Oh, today I want to do that." And
Right.
this is no, because nothing in my life has been planned. In my life, and it's the first thing is I want to enjoy what I am doing. So if today there is a point, I am doing some maps in this moment, but my mind is still away, still thinking to something that I've seen this morning, and I said I want to stop everything. I want to do that.
Right.
Uh,
Impulsive.
so nothing is planned, and also from the point of view of fame and popularity, my map making was not only guided by the fame of the appellation, because I've mapped Barolo, Barbaresco, Chianti Classico, and so on, but I have also mapped Lugana, that
Right. Because that was important to you.
only a few people cares about Lugana. But to me, was a nice place. And in my opinion, this is one of my best maps from the graphic point of view, and also from the text point of view.
Right.
So for me, it's important to find something that I like as a landscape, first of all.
That I think is the best way to do it. Alessandro, we have to take a quick break.
Yep.
We're talking to Alessandro Masnaghetti, the map man. When we come back, I want to get a little more into everything that goes into map making, and that's not just the drawing and technical, but everything we've discussed a little. You're listening to the Grape Nation on the Heritage Radio Network. We'll be right back.
This episode is brought to you by Wisconsin Cheese. There's a reason when you think of Wisconsin, you think cheese. Cheese is a huge part of Wisconsin's history and future. In Wisconsin, the state of cheese, the tradition of cheese-making excellence began 180 years ago, before Wisconsin was recognized as a state. Immigrants traveled to settle in this lush green hills of Wisconsin, bringing their cheese-making traditions with them. These storied skills, combined with the freshest milk available, created a cheese-making culture that is uniquely Wisconsin. Wisconsin's 1,200 cheesemakers, many of whom are third and fourth generation, continue to pass on old world traditions while adopting modern innovations in cheese-making craftsmanship. Find your next favorite cheese at wisconsincheese.com.
All right, we're back. We're back with my guest, Alessandro Masnaghetti. Alessandro is a journalist, a high-level wine taster, and a revered map maker. I want to get into the whole process and thinking of map making, which we've mentioned a few times is not just a bunch of drawings on paper. So when you look at a map, and I have a few, and I've seen, many more. What are the natural features of your maps? I see things like you mentioned steepness and aspect, in the notations, which are incredible. I see that things like temperature, elevation, all of that stuff. Tell me the important things. And I don't know if it's the right question, but the elements.
So, I have to tell you a story about evolution. So, at the beginning, as I told you before, the only factor that I was important to me was the aspect, was the exposure. Then, along the years, other factors came to the surface, and today, I have to say that the most important one is the local tradition. And today, almost nobody cares about that, but they forget that all in every place in the world, in every appellation in the world, when you start to, or when you have done some delimitation of more specific areas, the starting point is always the local tradition, the place name. And this is important. While most of the people start with geology, soils, climate. Yes, it's important, but it's important only when you try to go into more detail and try to find some explanation. But first of all, you have to follow the tradition, because in the US, it's quite different. I remember when I started map making in California with Antonio Galloni, and my approach was, okay, I take a map, no classic map, and try to find some place name. And I was totally surprised that most of the hills in Napa Valley has no name.
Really?
No, while in Europe, even the smallest hill has a name. Maybe not on the map, but locally, the local people has a specific name for a small hill, for a small place, for a small hamlet, and that's why, for me, as a European, the place name is very, very important because it's uh, and also the landscape again is important because
So the difference between terroir and landscape are night and day, right?
yeah, landscape. So as you know, the definition of terroir. If you ask 10 people, you have 10 different.
Right.
So I don't want to give you the 11th version
Okay.
of terroir, but I can tell you what is landscape for me. Landscape is what you can see with your eyes. Landscape is something that everybody can understand. Landscape is something that my mother and my father can understand, even if they do not drink wine or they are not interested in landscape. So, a rounded hill, a rolling hill, a steep hill is a concept that everybody can understand. So
Right.
this is my starting point. So I want to write for people and try to, I want to help them to understand. And the only way to help the people, to help the reader is to be simple, clear, and give them information that they can see on the field. I remember also, uh, uh, when I was mapping Valpolicella, uh, I came into a small village and I was looking at the old buildings and I said, "Oh, that's strange. So many black stones in the walls. Why black stones in the walls? It looks like volcanic stones. As far as I know, there are no volcanic soils here in this area." So I came back at home and I took a geological map and I saw that exactly in that spot and close to that village, there was a small area of volcanic soils. So,
Wow.
so if you look around you and you look to a wall, to an ancient wall, you can get some information about geology, about tradition. This is what is most fascinating for me, and I try to transmit to the reader. So be on the field, look around you, and try to get what the landscape is telling you, and also the climate. I'm not interested in numbers. I'm not
Right.
interested in numbers. I'm interested in feeling. I'm doing some from time to time. I'm doing a seminar on the fields in Chianti Classico, and every time I do the same thing, and every time the reaction of the people is "Why? Wow! What? It's incredible." So I start in the middle of the Chianti Classico at 500 meters in near Castello di Ama at 9 in the morning. Okay, I tell the people, okay, look around you, feel the air, feel the temperature, feel the humidity. Okay, try to memorize this, and in 15 minutes, I drive them to Castello di Broglio, that is in straight line is 5 kilometers. And
Right.
when we are there, after 15 minutes, 20 minutes, we are on the field again. And I say, guys, we are, yes, 50 meters lower. We are looking
Right.
the same direction, but again, feel the air. The temperature is different, the wind is different, the humidity is different. So that's why it's important. This is what I'm trying to transmit with my work, with my books, with my uh,
Right. the culture, the tradition, the landscape
and
really gives you an insight and a soul to the region and ultimately on the map, right?
yes, but also for the reader to be active. You know, when you are on the field, if you want to understand the region and probably to fall in love with the region, you must be active. Okay,
Right.
you have to look around you. You don't have to be passive. You know.
So when you're working on a region, you just mentioned that Castello d'Alma, and then 50 minutes later, when talk to me about a typical day. I mean, how many wineries, because I know you want to reach how many are you doing in a day? I'm curious, how many people are helping you? How many people are you with? And, what kind of equipment are you using? Cameras, drones? Are you drawing everything? Give me a little insight into that.
So, first of all, about the numbers. And
Okay.
when I start to make a new map, but also in other situation, my schedule is at least 8 wineries a day.
Okay. That's a lot.
So 4 in the morning and 4 in the afternoon. Sometimes I can arrive up to 9 or 10. It depends on the season. In winter, no, but in summer and springtime, I can reach 9 or 10 because this is due to basically because after so many years, I know exactly what to ask to the people when I'm visiting. So I don't need to waste time and listen to
Right.
a lot of stories.
You're very focused.
Yes, I'm really focused. I know what I want, and I'm trying to get the answer that I need. That's it.
Right.
That said, I don't need. I need a piece of paper, a pencil, and a phone, maybe. No,
Didn't you say a camera? You'll take photos?
mm, yes, from time to time, I
Okay.
can take some pictures, when you discover a new planted vineyard. So, but it's just a way to remind you when you are back at home. Okay, you have to recall yourself and say, okay, there is a new vineyard there planted, and you have to investigate. It's basically for that. And the drone, when I use the drone, is only. Are only in specific days. So if I use the drone, is a day only for drone.
Right.
We cannot mix visit with the drone.
Right.
Are two completely different job, and a map can be done without the drone.
So, how long does it take to work on the ground? Pick a region. So let's stay with Chianti, to work on the ground and get all that information. And then you take that information and make the physical map. How long is that whole process?
There is no answer
Well,
because
give me the short and the long of anything.
no, because for a simple reason, two simple reason. Uh, I do not count my own works, my
Okay.
hours. It's my attitude. I do not care.
Well, if you enjoy it, you don't care.
Because I enjoy, so I do not care if I take 1 hour or 10. Who cares? And the other point is that in regions like Chianti Classico or Barolo or Barbaresco, it was a step-by-step process. So in my mapping project in Barolo and Barbaresco started with Castiglione Falletto, then I did the Monforte d'Alba map, then I did La Morra, and the same in Chianti Classico, Radda, Gaiole, Castellina. And so it's difficult to calculate how many.
Right. I get that now, the way you do it.
I, I can
Um,
I can tell you that the Chianti Classico book, okay, this is a quite big book. with a lot of information.
Right.
I started to write it in February, and the book for it was ready for printing in September.
Wow.
So, but
Well, one of the things that is, stunning to me in a good way, um, is that if you take, one of the maps and you unfold it, we've discussed what goes into making the map. It's just incredible. But what's stunning to me is the extensive commentary. There's as much writing about what that map is about as the map itself. Um,
yeah, yeah.
I'm guessing you're taking notes along the way, and then as you're finishing the map, you're expanding, everything that you can to help, make this map better. Tell me about that.
I have pages of notes, and unfortunately, I cannot show you. But I still have my uh, cadastral maps that I used in '93 to make my first map, and in each single parcel, I have written the owner, the grape variety. So I have
Right.
and hundreds of parcels, and on the land registry written by hand with notes with the name, and this is absolutely important. And this is, unfortunately, I have no time to go back to these notes, and when I do that, I say, "Oh my God, you have so many information that you are not transmitting to other people. Maybe it's time to get all this information and make probably two other new books with all this
Right.
information." Uh,
Right.
yes, but taking notes on the field is important. And remember, today is a slightly different, but at the beginning, when the satellite imagery was not high quality
Right.
imagery, each single parcel in Barolo was checked on the field. So I
Really.
I went it on the field with my map, and each single plot was flagged. Okay, this is existing. This is existing. This is not existing.
Right.
This
That's
has a different shape. You have to rewrite this. And
that's crazy.
that's crazy.
Um,
It was crazy, but
yeah.
it's the only way if you want to go deep in the region and get this feeling to be at home every time.
Yeah, I agree with that because, all the commentary is not just about the technical aspect of the map. It's what you had mentioned earlier, the culture, the tradition, the people. You also said that, and I believe this from researching and talking to you now, it's not just about the picture of the map on the paper. There's so much more to it. And you also said that, wine it's not just about an alcoholic drinking the glass. It's everything that leads up to it, which could be the same with a map. You agree?
Well, to be honest, you are totally right. Wine is not only alcohol, tannins, water, and what you have in the glass. This is sure, but at the same time, it's better not to exaggerate.
Right. Right. Like, don't get too crazy about it. I agree with you.
Wine, wine is wine. We have to enjoy a glass of wine. We have not to spend our nights trying to find the solution.
I agree.
No.
I'm so glad you said that because for somebody who puts so much detail in their work, you have to step back and just enjoy it for what it
Yes,
is.
yes, yes, absolutely. You have
You had mentioned Antonio Galoni before. Tell me, because I want to talk about the California maps for a minute. How'd your relationship with Galoni come about? And
oh,
was that your Was that your foray? Was that your introduction into California mapping?
so I started. Uh, Antonio knew my maps about Marolo, so
Right.
it was quite natural for each other to start a collaboration, and it was quite natural, first of all, to move to California and Napa Valley and start from them. And from the mapping point of view, uh, is is it was a great experience. Still it is still a great experience to map there, because you can uh, get the difference of culture, as I told you before.
Right.
Uh, but at the same time, it's difficult to compare my mapping in California with mapping in Europe, because mapping in Europe, as we have seen before, is mapping and writing. Okay, so
Right.
the text on the back has the same importance, maybe more importance than the map itself. While in California, my job is mapping. Because
Why is that? It was more about the map than all the context and other information.
Oh,
Is that what you're saying?
no, because the writing side is up to Antonio, and
Ah, I got it.
yes,
That was the circumstance.
yes, I
I understand.
am the map maker, and he writes the text
I
because
got it.
uh, he is more in tune also with the American approach to.
Right. I didn't see it from that as now was that was that a relief for you that you didn't have to do all of that? Was that hard because that's what you always did?
Uh,
Was it just less work?
it
How did you look at that?
it was.
It wasn't easy to adopt to immediately, I guess.
To be honest, I have never thought about this point. So
Right.
I have no specific answer. It was something different,
Right.
and it was a way to learn something more, and, and try to be curious every time, because otherwise, if you are always alone, you try to no, you start to think all the same way, and
Right.
in particular if you get old.
Right. It's a
Why
good point.
this is a way to this is a quite a kind of challenge, you are always, you need every time to be in tune with someone else, to listen, to get the difference, and to listen to different opinions, and
Right.
so
Which is always great.
yeah, this is important. It's a way to change the way and to have a different approach to the.
And Antonio knows what he's talking about, so it's a good person to work with.
Yeah, sure.
Let me ask you this question. So your maps are of great service and information to wineries, I'm sure, to wine communities, the consortiums, to wine professionals. Give me a good argument or good explanation why the casual wine lover, or even a little more than casual, would appreciate your maps. So I have tons of listeners. They're in the industry. They're new to wine. They're collectors. To explain to me why these maps would really be an enhancement to my interest in wine.
So in the wine, the people in the business, or the normal people.
Normal people, forget the
Yeah.
normal people is the guy I want you to sell it to.
Uh, I,
So wait, I don't mean to interrupt,
I,
but I'm a normal guy and I'm listening to this and I say, Jesus, that sounds like it's for the industry. That's too fancy, and then he finds out it's not that expensive. Why should I buy how will it help me?
no, I think that a normal person that has no interest in wine, uh, I cannot find a reason to.
No, but how about, somebody who does have an interest in wine?
Yes,
What?
if you do not have interest in wine, I think that my maps are has no interest at all, I suppose. You must have is I'm not sure to have get the sense of the question, but like,
No, so you're answering it the opposite of what I'm asking you. I am not. I love wine. I drink it. I'm a little knowledgeable about it, but I'm not a fancy collector, and I'm not that nerdy about it. But I want to know more. Will the maps help me
okay,
understand more?
okay. Sure, this is sure.
Tell me how.
But you have there is it's always up to you. You need something in your head that says, okay, you need something more. You need something more specific. I think that uh, the map can be an easiest way to approach a region than a book, because a
There
book,
you go.
it,
In one sentence, you answered the question, and I agree with you. What else do you think?
is that because you for a book you need uh, a week to read the book.
Right.
A map, if you love, particularly if you love maps, you can understand something at a glance. You have only to look at the map, and you have the solution in many
Right.
cases. And
Right.
so the map is important, and also because it's something graphic. It's the best way to for you to have a general context where to place your region. So, because it's always important, because you cannot approach Barolo, Napa Valley, without knowing that Barolo is in Piedmont, in the southern part of Piedmont, and so on. And so,
Right.
a graphic, so a map, is the best way to create this context and understand, first of all, where you are.
I I I I I'm glad you said that because basically I agree. Maps give context to a place. And then if we go back a little in our discussion, nothing does it better than spreading out a paper map, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
All right.
The sound of the paper.
Yes, I love that. I just want to mention you and I was invited by Constant Chamberlain to a Franciacorta presentation,
Mhm.
and you were the guest, and you had done a map on Franciacorta, and, I have it in front of me among others. And when I met you, I connected with you to talk to you. And when I walked out of there, I said, this is just the most amazing, way to look at wine. To me, it's just another way to look at it. As we said, it gave me all the context and everything. And, um, I just thought that as many people that you work with and know, there's that many, that don't see it from this, view. And that's really why, I wanted to have you on the show and have people know, who you are and all of that. And at the end of the show, I want you to give me some information about where people can get more information. But as I mentioned to you, we do a thing called the wine list. At the end of the show, we ask our guests 5 questions. It's the same 5 questions since we started the podcast over 8 years ago. And it's just tapping into some of your wine preferences. And I think you'll do well at this because I think you're a pretty savvy wine guy. So the first question, Alessandro, question number 1 is, what are you drinking now? What is in your fridge? What do you like tasting? Does it have anything to do with travel? Forget about what you drink. Obviously, if you're working on a map in a certain area, you're drinking those wines. But what are some of your drinking preferences right now?
Oh, oh.
I mean, you could say beer if that's what you're
No, no,
drinking.
no, no, no. Uh, uh, for example, I have a surprise for my wife tonight.
Okay.
So I have a bottle of Krug.
So are you a champagne lover?
I am a champagne drinker.
Okay.
This is different.
Uh,
This is
Honest answer. Krug, top of the game. Tell me something else you've been drinking in the past few days, weeks,
so
or
is a wide range because I have Krug on one side And I have
Okay.
Lange Nebbiolo 2023 from Tredberry on the
All right.
sides.
That's a very new, fresh Lange.
The opposite, and then you can place whatever you want in the middle. But
Okay.
basically, I'm drinking Nebbiolo in this period, and from time to time some champagne. That's it.
All right. So answer this. You know, you don't have to get too deep into it, but obviously we talked, you know, about, you know, you being Italian, living, you know, Milan, Bologna. Um, you've surveyed a lot of, you know, Italian wine regions. Outside of the Krug Champagne and outside of all the Italian wines, and there are a lot, give me something out of Italy that you find yourself drinking every now and then.
Oh, other wines you said?
Yeah, or other regions, anything.
Verdicchio is one of my favorite white wines,
Okay.
in particular in summer. Uh,
Okay.
really, because it's a wine that can be easy to drink, but at the same time it can age well in bottle. So give you a different opportunity of drinking, and
I think it's underappreciated. You
uh,
know, I think to how you described it, it's just a terrific wine. It'll hold a little age. It's great to drink now.
and generally another point is in this period, in the last 2 3 years, I'm moving more and more towards young wines, easy to drink wine. I want to rediscover the pleasure of drinking wine only for pleasure, and not thinking about a heel or a position of a producer. And
Right.
so a well-made young wine,
It's a different expression.
yeah, it's a different expression. It's a great pleasure, and one of the best example on this side is Chianti Classico. So the Chianti Classico Annata is one of
Agree.
favorite category of wine. If I have to choose between a top Gran Selezione or a Riserva or a Chianti Annata, my first choice is an Annata, because good price, good quality, great respect of the territory, and it's a pure pleasure. And
This show is a big fan of Chianti Classico in all the regions. Um, I've had Eric Asimov on from the New York Times, you know, multiple times, and every time he talks about how good, you know, the Chianti, the value, the quality. So I agree with you there. All right, second question. This plays right into you. Sometimes this seems like the silliest question to some of my guests, but for you, the question is, what is Alessandro's favorite wine and food pairing? Not what you and I think is the best wine pairing or what wine goes with. What do you love? It may not be something you eat all the time, but what is that
this is,
food and wine that works so well for you?
no, so this is not the right question for me.
All right, so reformulate it for
No,
me
no,
and
no,
answer it.
no. Because no, but I explained to you the reason why it's not, because I'm not definitely interested in wine pairing with food.
Okay.
What is
You're not the first guy who said that on the show.
what is important to me is to have good food and good wine. So if they go well together, okay,
And people.
nice, okay. Otherwise, I eat food and I drink wine, or I drink food and I eat wine. It's not a problem.
So you know what? You may be the first person that got us to this answer. Food and wine together are just a great thing, right?
Yes.
That's it. That's it. I'm going to take that as the answer, and I appreciate that. All right. Third question.
Okay.
Third question. The question is your favorite wine restaurant and or bar. And I'm not asking you to make a list or list your favorites. I'm wondering if you can give me a few examples of restaurants or wine bars that have a great selection, the vibe is good, the people are terrific. You know, if there's food there, their food is good. I mean, is there any place in your travels inside of Italy, outside of Italy that comes to mind?
So again, as I told you about wine, I am in an evolution period. I am changing,
Right.
and I have to say that I have to explain that I am a bike rider,
Okay.
and this is important because when you are riding along the way, it's quite normal to find a nice small restaurant with a very tiny wine list with good food, but with a particular atmosphere. And this
Right.
is what is important to me, to feel good, to feel be like at home. If the wine is not, if the wine list is not so interesting, is not a problem to me. What is
Right.
important is that the food, yes, the food must be at least good. So I am not looking for very nice restaurant, huge wine list. I'm not interested in that. Again, I want to stay in a place where I feel at home with smart people, with yes, the owner that must be smart people
Right.
and good food, good wines. But if we have extremely good bottles, I'm happy as well. Okay,
Right.
I do not need every time that. So I'm preferring in this period the osteria or trattoria more than very top level restaurant because
I totally agree with you. I understand that answer. And it even makes more sense, as a bike rider when you're out there,
yeah,
maybe after riding for a few hours, maybe it's close to lunchtime or late in the
yes,
afternoon,
yes,
and it's a perfect time for a little snack or meal.
yeah,
And it's not the importance of how big or important the wine list is, it's just that they have maybe a few good wines to drink. That's a terrific answer.
yeah,
All right, fourth question.
yeah.
The question is, what is Alessandro's favorite all-time wine? Now, don't answer that because when I initially put that question together, I wanted to know the rarest, most expensive wine you ever drank. I don't care about that anymore. Here's what I care about. Can you think about wines during your wine life and career that were important to you, that were gateway wines, that made an impression, that changed the way you think about wine? Maybe it was a wine Luigi Veronelli pulled out. Is there a wine or two that you can recall that's just important to how you think about wine today?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes, 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 yes. Uh, at least three wives. No.
Okay. Whatever.
Uh,
And by the way, I didn't tell you this. I post this stuff in our social media. So, people that listen to the show hear it, but also people, that follow us on social media get to see the list too. So we're going to post these answers too. All right. So give me your wines, that are important to you.
so the Bruno Giacosa Red Label Santo Stefano 88.
Okay. That's a good one.
Then
But wait, give me some context.
Barolo,
Why?
Barolo,
Where were you and why did that wine stand out then and memorable now?
why that wine? Why
Yeah. Well, and I know it's a good wine, but
no,
where
no,
were you? Who pulled that out?
sure, sure. Of course, we are not say. Of course, there is a good wine. Is that it was something that you can get the soul of the grape. This was okay. You have to memorize this wine and use this wine as a benchmark when you are dealing about the Nebbiolo style and the Nebbiolo taste. And
Okay.
and maybe another benchmark, and even more important to me, was the Barolo Busia 85 from Brunotto. that nobody cares about this wine. Unfortunately, it didn't age so well. And in the last 10 years was not as good as it was in the past. But I can guarantee you that that wine at the beginning of between the end of the 90s and the 2000 was a true benchmark. Is, in my opinion, this was the Barolo of my dreams.
You know what's interesting? I've never heard anyone answer that question that talked about a wine that they tasted and they tasted it in a window that was in the prime of the wine, but then noted that later on the wine didn't hold up and it wasn't good. But the time you drank it was as impressionable as any. That's an interesting answer. So that's the 85 Prunotto
Yeah,
Buscia, right?
Lucia. Yeah, that's.
Lucia. All right. Did you say you had one more? You mentioned three.
No,
If not, those are good.
no. I prefer these two ones. These
Okay.
ones were really the benchmark.
I love the stories around them as much as the wine. All right. Here's the last question. And again, I'm going to read you the question, but I'm going to change it around for you. I usually ask people, tell me the best wine around $15, $20, $22 American dollars that you would recommend. And you could recommend, I want you to recommend a red and a white. You could recommend a region like Muscadet is a good value for white, or a maker or whatever. I'm going to change the question a little. Can you recommend to me what you think in your travels, could be Italy, anywhere, what are the best value to quality wines that you could recommend, a red and a white? Now, I could kind of tip you off a little here. I think Chianti and Chianti Classico fit that answer for red. Do you agree?
Yes, but
But I want you to take the answer from here now.
but let me add Chianti Classico Annata. Okay, is the top choice.
Okay.
But do not forget the Dolcetto d'Alba.
Okay, I'm glad you brought that up.
The different version of Dolcetto. Right yesterday I have tasted a 2023 Dolcetto from Treviso, so it's inside the Barbaresco area. It's a one.
Wait, is Treviso the maker?
Sorry?
What did you say? It's from Treviso?
From Treviso, yes.
Treiso?
Exactly. It's a commune. Is one of the three commune of the Barbaresco appellation.
Got it. I just want to make sure my listeners get
this. And this commune, it was very famous in the past for the quality of the Dolcetto. And yesterday night I had the confirmation again.
And these are not expensive wines, right?
No, no.
Okay.
No, unfortunately, nobody wants the Dolcetto. That's the point.
Well, that's our little secret then. That's what our listeners should pick up on.
Yeah, the Dolcetto. Try the Dolcetto. Is not expensive and is the best. We go back to the food pairing and is the best
with
wine to taste with the toma, with the Piedmontese cheese. So is
wait. Name the cheese again for me.
Yeah, so this is
what's the name of it?
Toma.
Toma. Okay, it's spelled like it sounds. And just a bottle of Dolcetto d'Alba and a nice chunk of Toma. That's a pretty good pairing. You're saying,
and you don't need anything else.
Okay. Now you have to give me some good value white recommendations. You mentioned earlier Verdicchio, which I think may fit that category. Anything else?
Oh, I remain on the Verdicchio because there are many other wines in Italy that are white wines that are worth the money. If you want, you can choose something from this Alto Adige region. Most of the wine entry-level white wines from the Alto Adige are very nice wine and a good quality price.
So, Alessandro, I had the good fortune to go there a year ago and probably toured, over 30 wineries, and the white wines are spectacular,
Yeah,
from Pinot Gris to,
right. And
everything,
not expensive.
German varietals, incredible. That's a great one. I'm glad you brought that up. All right, we have to wrap up the show. Let me do a quick wrap up, and then I want to get some info for you, and I'm going to send you on your way. So if you have a question, suggestion, wine happening, or event, hit me up at sam@thegrapenation.com. That's sam@thegrapenation.com. Listen to the Grape Nation podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your pods. Please subscribe to the Grape Nation, and if you like the show, leave a review. Follow us on Instagram at @SBenRuby and on X @BenRuby. You can always use the hashtag The Grape Nation to find us on both. We are on Facebook at The Grape Nation. As I mentioned, we'll post Alessandro's wine list answers on our social media sites. Now, Alessandro, we spent a lot of time talking about what you do. Where can we find out more about what you're doing? Your company is Enogia, right?
Yeah.
Enogea.
Exactly.
Where can people go? Like, where can I learn more about these maps? Where can I purchase one? What's the best place to do that?
So if you live outside the States, there is my website that is www.enogea.it. Otherwise, if you live in the States, there is the Rare Wine Co. website. So Manny Burke,
Right.
Manny Burke website.
Manny Burke distributes them in the U.S.
Yes, is my distributor, and I love Manny because it was the first man outside Italy that believed in my work. And
well, Manny's a special guy. He's got a pretty good feel for this business.
yeah, I remember that he said at that time, Alessandro, I don't know if I can sell 10 or 1,000 map, but I
want to do it.
I love your work and I want to support you, and that's why I love Manny. And
how far back was that? How long has he been selling the maps?
Oh, good question.
Before Galoni, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
I suppose that is 2008, 2010.
Yeah.
So it's
that just shows you how cool Manny is and how committed he is and supportive. Good for him. So Rare Wine Co., RARE Wine Co., is where you can go there. They're a big wine seller and collections and all that. Alessandro, if anybody wants to follow you on social media, are you active on social media?
Yes, I am on Instagram and Facebook, but I'm not so active.
Yeah, but every now and then, right?
Yeah.
Your last post wasn't 2023, was it?
On Instagram, you can find me as Mapman. Yes, not Alessandro Masnaghetti, but as Mapman.
Right.
While on Facebook, I am Alessandro Masnaghetti or in both.
So it's ALESSANDRO, Alessandro. And then just as for my listeners, Masnaghetti. So it's MASNA, Masna, GHETTI, Alessandro Masnaghetti on Facebook. Because I would love people to make further inquiries to get more detail about what you're doing. All right. I want to thank my guest, Alessandro Masnaghetti. I want to thank our engineer, Armin, and everyone at the Heritage Radio Network. I'm Sam Ben-Ruby, and you've been listening to The Grape Nation. The Grape Nation is powered by Simplecast. Thanks for listening to Heritage Radio Network. Food radio supported by you. Keep in touch at heritageradionetwork.org/subscribe.
I'm admitting here and now I have a crush on another podcaster. It's called The Sporkful, and it's hosted by Dan Pashman, who's also the inventor of the pasta shape cascatelli. Why do I love Dan so much? What is this crush about? He obsesses about food to learn more about people. Dan explores what's so special about a shallot. Should you eat fast food on vacation? Is halal pork impossible? This is a podcast that's not just for foodies. It's actually for eaters. Listen to The Sporkful wherever you get your podcasts. I know you'll be full and satisfied.